at the princely sum of 150 rupees a month, which after a few years was raised to 450 rupees a month. I changed 3 buses to go to work. I waded through waist-deep waters in Mumbai monsoon. Some of you who are from there will remember that very vividly. We've all done that. And I hadn't taken a single holiday for the first 9 years of practice. And I remember that when I took my first holiday after 9 years, I went to a nearby hill station, Lonavala, with my wife, just for 1 day. And when I came back, a patient of mine blasted me. And he said, "Where were you when I needed you?" And then I realized that medicine is so exacting. It's so demanding. And he told me one very clear thing, which I still remember now. This is like, 35 years ago, and I still remember that. He said, "Where were you when I needed you?" I said, after 9 years, I took a holiday. I just went for 1 day around the corner. And he said, no. If you wanted to take a holiday, then you should have been a teacher, not a doctor. And I still remember that, because then he said that you'll have 3 months holiday in a year. You can do what you want. But if you choose medicine, then it's all invasive. It's all persuasive. You have no choice. It's a very, very demanding profession. And I must say that when I took it up, I really never realized that it's going to be as demanding as, when I entered it. Because I remember that I actually wanted to do hotel management. And I went to the owner of one of the hotels, and I said that, I want to do hotel management. And he said, "Why?" And I said, "No, I like it, He said, no, you'll have to wash dishes, and you'll have to, do beds and things like that." I said, "Really?" I thought, it was a glamorous job, and I was quite happy doing it. And then he told me one thing. He says, "If you take this up, you'll then be married to the hotel." So I said, no, I don't want to be married to the hotel. I want my own life. So I want to be a doctor. But I didn't realize that now I'm married to all my patients, and that there's such a strong bond that you can't get out of it. So I think the commitment in medicine is far greater than any other profession. So a few turning points in my life is when I became from an employee into a self-employed professional. I started my first clinic in 1982. It was called at that time the Positive Health Clinic. I remember that I had to borrow money from institutions and from friends at the rate of 36%. That was the Bollywood rate at that time, because that was considered to be the riskiest of all businesses, because there was no pattern by which it worked. So 3% per month was the interest that you had to pay on the loan that you took. And please understand that these were before mobile phone times, when banks called you 10 times a day and said, "How much money do you want?" And private equity called you and said, "How much money do you need?" Doctors were not institutions, and therefore they were not funded at all. And it was very difficult. And when I wanted to buy my first computer, I remember that it was 1,25,000 rupees at that time. And my printer was a dot matrix printer. It was as big as this. It occupied the whole table. And every time I printed a prescription, the whole building shook. Tuck, 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 tuck. It went on. And to repay that and my first clinic, it took me 10 years. And so I think any entrepreneurial journey is not an easy journey. It's something that's not built in a day. It's something that takes a lot of time, application, effort. And maybe the next generation finds it much easier to grow it. But when you're going up a difficult path and a new path, it's not very easy. Then, of course, I decided that from a single doctor practice, I should have multiple center clinics. And this also happened by chance. I think a lot of things that I did in my life were not really planned, even though now we have 5-year business plans and 3-year business plans, but we keep changing them every day, because everything in entrepreneurship is about an opportunity and how you can deal with it. So at that time, my son was to graduate, and I was very sure that I wouldn't have money to buy a property for him in Mumbai. And my brother, being a builder in Bangalore, had a property here, and he said, "Why don't you come and, pay me in installments and at least start your clinic here." So I started that clinic here. Turned out to be very, very successful. I would practice 20 days in Mumbai, 10 days in Bangalore. And I then followed that formula into other cities, where I would practice Monday to Friday in Mumbai and Saturday, Sunday in some city in India or in the world. And that's how this whole idea came, that now how do I now replicate it and try to run these clinics without me. So then I started training doctors and, making sure that they are very well trained and they can actually then, practice independently. And that's how then the entire, thing grew. Somewhere in 2004, after I set up my company, around 3 years down the road, I said I must professionalize my company. And this is really the big challenge because, professional managers did not want to come to homeopathic brand. And they all told me that, sir, what is there for you? आप तो वापस practice में चले जाओगे, and I will lose my job. And I've got such a good job, in a company, why would I come to you? Now, it has taken almost 10 years to break that, ceiling. Today, we have professional managers who work with us. My group CEO is ex-head of Colgate. My company CEO is worked with Accenture. All the top professional managers have worked with all the top companies internationally and in India. So today we are able to attract a lot of professional talent, which in the beginning we were not. We didn't have the culture to get professional managers. We found it very difficult to bring them in, and we found it very difficult for them to actually stick to us and to stay with us. So they kept leaving us. Now today we have a very stable kind of professional management system, and that also was a challenge. At that time, we also realized that, when you come for personal treatment, your interactions are limited. I mean, I was able to move from 1,000 patients in a month that I used to treat, normally in my own private practice, to now reach a 13 lakh patient base across multiple cities. We see almost as close to 7,000 to 8,000 patients every Saturday, Sunday, and that's among the largest kind of patient flows that there is for homeopathy in the world. And I said, if we have to actually now reach out to people, we then must get closer to them, and therefore we decided that we must become a household name. To become a household name, we have to make products. So we then launched products in 2005. We came to Bangalore, we came to Pune, we test marketed them. For 1 year, we did very well. We spent a lot of money, we sponsored Miss Universe on TV. We had all big dreams and great ideas. Ultimately, we failed. And there was a rumor that, the Koreans are coming in and they're going to drop their prices. So the two big multinational companies, HUL and Procter & Gamble, cut their prices in year ending in March by 67%. We could not cope with it, so we had to withdraw stocks. We lost a lot of money, and we said, now what do we do? And so we revamped the whole company again, and we rebuilt it from scratch. We bought another unit outside Maharashtra, outside Mumbai, in Palghar. Got in an ex-Marico head to come and develop that product, entire product range, and to do all the operations of the factory. And now my ex-Colgate person who's very good in product marketing has already moved these products in 1 year's time to 6,500 outlets in India and 250 outlets in Dubai and UAE. So that's something that we learned from failure. And, it's not that we succeeded and people said, you lost. We said, no, let's have a strategy. Let's start selling these products only in our clinics first. So for the next 3 years, we sold products only in our clinics. And then we started saying, how do we change and what do we do? And we started evolving them. And then when we were ready for the launch, we then, entered into open market. And I'm happy to say that today, being part of modern trade and general trade, we still don't advertise for them. And because of the brand value, they actually move off the shelf. And in some of modern trade outlets, for some products, not all of them, we actually have a 5% market share without any advertisement. And that's a lot for a company which is dealing with multinational companies. And we are among the very few Indian companies today internationally. When you go there, only 2 or 3 international brands like Himalaya, VLCC abroad. And Dr. Batra shares space with all the multinational companies abroad. And we are still doing well over there. So I think that's something again which I want to share with you, that it came actually from failure and from regrouping and redoing it again. I think that's more or less been the story of my life. Nothing has come easy, everything has failed. There's hardly been anything which is like a first time success. It's always a failure, you fail, you become strong, you regroup, you come back again in a new avatar, and you then become successful. People talk about the first mover advantage, I talk about the first mover disadvantage. Because marketing gurus say that, when you move first into a market, you get this advantage and others can. But I think it's a disadvantage because you create the path and then others just follow it. And then they just copy you and then they just, get the benefit of all your hard work. Advertising without breaching medical ethics. How do you promote yourself? How do you tell people that you're around? How do you tell people you're a brand? There's a lot of restrictions in advertising in many parts of the world. Just to give an idea, in London, for example, where we function, You cannot call yourself a doctor, you are a mister. And doctors are only MD doctors, and doctors are only, so you're a, in Dubai we are a CAM doctor, which is a complementary and alternative medicine practitioners. You are called a doctor, but you're a CAM doctor. And for any promotion that you do, for every advertisement, every corporate communication brochure that you're giving in your clinic, you have to get Ministry of Health approval. And that Ministry of Health approval is valid only for 1 month. And if you don't use it, you anyway give the money. And then you apply again. So everything is very regulated, very controlled. Just to give an idea, even a software system that we have in Dubai, we are not allowed to bring it to India because it lies with the government. So you can't change anything. So in case there's a consumer case against you, you will be responsible and accountable because everything lies with the government. So they're watching what you're doing, they're watching all your prescriptions, they're seeing how you're treating the patient. So there's a lot of control in healthcare. I mean, my experience all over the world now is that two of the things that are most regulated all over the world today is healthcare and food. I mean, there's no stronger regulation anywhere else, and maybe India has the least regulation among these two, and it should actually have the most, because these are the pillars of good health and growth in a society. And if you don't have great regulations in health and great regulations in food, I mean, then you know what's going to happen. Your children are going to eat lead in their noodles and so on and so forth. Training doctors, how do you replicate yourself? So a lot of training goes into this. How do you achieve standardization? It's like if you go to one clinic and another clinic, it must have the same experience. And it's almost like a very bad example, but going from one McDonald's to another. So if you go to a one Dr. Batra's clinic in Dubai, or if you go to another clinic in Hyderabad or in Faridabad or in Mumbai, they look exactly the same. The entire feeling, there are SOPs in place, there are systems in place which will make sure that you get the same experience everywhere. And that's also a challenge that I had as an entrepreneur. I think one of the strong decisions that I took as an entrepreneur was that I will try, while I am going to do people development very strongly, I'm going to try to make sure that I become people independent as far as I can. Now, what do I mean by that? That doesn't mean that I will do away with the doctors. I have 400 doctors today in my company. I have 40 MDs. I have 25 super specialists like, gastroenterologists and pediatricians and dermatologists and all that. So I'm not saying you have to do away with people. But can we do away with dependence on people? And can we therefore make things run independently for themselves? And can we standardize things? The only way we could do that was by developing processes and systems. And so it has taken us 10 years to actually develop very strong process and systems with work. This is just an example. I mean, there are very many of them. So this is when a patient enters the clinic, what happens? And so what do you do actually? And the entire flow till he joins or no, then what do you do? How do you upscale it? And all these kind of things. So this is just an example of how everything is regulated, everything has an operational procedure, so that the same examples and experience that you have in one clinic, you can actually get elsewhere. This is another example. If you call a call center, for example, within 24 hours, you get an appointment and you can close. This is a patient who, for example, asked for something to do with, PCOD, polycystic ovarian disorders, and this is how then it gets saved into the system, the query is answered, and ultimately then the loop gets fixed and the patient gets an appointment. So all of this is process driven, and a lot of it is automated now. So we're not person dependent, we don't have to depend on people. For example, if you miss your appointment, it's all in the system. You automatically get an SMS reminding you about your appointment. You get an automatic reminder, you get a missed appointment reminder, and so on and so forth. Also, we were able to standardize treatment because this was a big challenge. How do you standardize treatments across 194 outlets that we are today, and by 195, sorry, and as we speak, end of the month, we shall be 200 outlets, all over. So we open now, in the last 10 days, we've opened one clinic every day in some part of the world. And, we've increased our operational efficiency from opening 2 clinics in a year to opening 8 clinics in a month. So we open 2 clinics every week. And we are just trying to see, can we benchmark, for example, against the Axis Bank model. We worked with Axis Bank, and, they are our bankers as well. And we saw that a few years ago, Axis Bank opened 1 new outlet every day for 1 year. So they had 365 outlets. And we said, can we match that? So the benchmarking that we do doesn't necessarily have to come from industry, because when you are leading the industry, you have nobody to follow. You have others to follow you. So what do you follow? So you create benchmarks but you also benchmark against the best in the industry. Like for example, we benchmark, why does it take 10 minutes at a Dr. Batra's to get a registration form filled in? Why can it not be done offline, like how it happens in the airlines? Why can we not follow a hospitality model? When you go to a 5-star hotel, it takes you only 2 minutes to enter your details. Why does it take 10 minutes with us? So the best in practice